There's a lot of change going on globally, and we're feeling it here in Australia. And now I wonder, is it still possible to start locally in an economy as small as ours and be a catalyst for global change? How can we build revenue resilience into our organisations to ensure that they survive and thrive despite increased uncertainty, complexity, and evolving technology? I'm hoping that Professor Michael Rosemann has some solutions for us. Michael is Professor and Head of QUT's Information Systems School. He's editor and author of 7 books and more than 230 refereed papers. His publications have been translated into 5 languages. By the UN? Michael? No? Yeah. Michael also has established 3 industry-funded chairs in innovation management. His current research is dedicated to revenue resilience and the characteristics of a digital mind. Speaking on the future of working in the digital economy, please make welcome Professor Michael Rosemann.
Thank you, Danielle. I met Danielle last year when I spoke at the Australian Harvard Women at a Spices retreat. I remember taking my wife, and when we arrived, my wife Louise said, "Michael, so beautiful to be here, just you, me, and 15 other women." So I'm delighted we've got a much bigger audience here today. The first Michael talked about the bottlenecks of automation, and I want to talk about the opportunities of digitization. So very often we see the automation, we see the artifact, the driverless car, the 3D printer, social computing. But we can't think about the implications. And I guess the global impact is that we change thinking patterns, and detect mega trends that go beyond technological artifacts. So 2 of them are here. And the first one, as Danielle just mentioned, is what we call revenue resilience. So revenue resilience means a lot of organizations won't survive just because they're tremendously cost efficient. And yes, I totally agree with Michael as well that it is helpful to be creative, have social intelligence. That's necessary maybe in the future, but not sufficient. And when large companies die, a lot of creative people working for these companies go with them. The second one is around micro revenues. And so I noted how you talked about, I think, 86% of the accommodation and food industry is in danger. That's one observation. And what now digitization will do to you is it creates entities like Airbnb, valued $13 billion, and I think that is 550,000 properties. And so the notion of micro revenue means that digitization puts a lot of automation and IT empowerment to the people. The age of automation made companies more streamlined. The age of digitization puts power into the hands of people and allows these individuals to contribute to global value chains. And while maybe the facets of the accommodation industry is changing, the opportunity to create micro revenue by 500,000 people is a new revenue stream. But that might mean in the future we don't get our income from one individual entity. We might be on the payroll of multiple entities. And this will go across a lot of organizations. So to talk about maybe more the limitations and not so much the bottlenecks of automation. So a lot of organizations would regard this as a mega success story. I take what I've got, I understand what I could do better, and I streamline and end up with a sort of straight-through process. This is a quote from a case study that was released in 2012, and this case study was Kodak. So here's a company that was a global showcase for the way they deployed automation to their business processes. And this company has a kind of destiny that we're all aware of. And so this is what we call revenue resilience. And to visualize this, a simple picture. You will be familiar with the idea of hygiene factors. So what you see, the red line is what your customer somehow expects. So if you hand over a certain service or a product, the customer will say finally or not thank you. Let's say if QT tomorrow rolls out an app, we can follow via an app our lectures, most of our students will say finally and not thank you. So the red line is when you give your customers what they expect. And most organizations, bottom left corner, are busy being busy. Now Kodak was in the top right corner. They were able to understand what's going on and to automate and to give customers incredibly streamlined processes. Above the line is what we call proactive design. Above the line is where you capitalize on what's tomorrow possible, where you very proactively generate new solutions. Our students 10 years ago wanted to be experts on the red line. They want to automate and streamline business processes in large organizations and work for organizations like SAP and Oracle. Our students today want to become innovation professionals. They want to shape tomorrow. They want to be able to think above the line. Now, we've got a lot of textbooks and expertise for below the line. What's a problem? How to understand a problem, decompose a problem, and use current technology to react to that problem with a very predictive outcome. I give you a car, and we can automate the car, which is a great achievement. The digital mind will look at the automated car and think, like Google, about how does this car maximize my share of digital attention. We will unlock the biggest amount of human time ever seen before. Manually driving a car most likely will either be illegal or incredibly expensive, but I've got your attention, which means for an organization like QT, mobile learning all of a sudden has seen a much larger audience. So above the line, you think about revenue generation. Below the line, you're typically cost sensitive and reactive. And what we try to create now is curriculum and a mindset in the lives of a lot of individuals who are able to think above the line. In addition to what automation can facilitate, capitalize on the affordances of digitization. If I take recruitment as another example, we can see how an organization like DIN has created digital public goods and changed the landscape of recruitment. The digital mind might think, I put 4,000 people into executive jobs in Brisbane. Maybe the process of automation, the process of automated recruitment has changed my nature. But my social capital is, I'm closer to 4,000 executives than anybody else. How could I capitalize on this? And that's what we call social capital. So what we hope and believe that in addition to social intelligence and creativity, the notion of revenue resilience, income resilience, for you as an individual, as a CEO of yourself, or as you as an organization, is crucial. What we're working on is, in our research, how do we know if our revenue is in danger? We call this revenue resilience. So Ross talked about business models. The fact that Uber crowdsources assets provided by our customers and puts organizations like the taxi industry in danger. What we see in the kind of retail banking sector, I think Facebook last week launched the ability to transfer money to your connected friends. We previously talked about, I think, the Queen and Caesar. If you go back to Gutenberg, when Gutenberg invented the printing press, a lot of scribers said, you can't do this to me. Well, you can go from Gutenberg to Zuckerberg. This is what the industry is doing to you. But you have to sense when you as an individual, CEO of yourself, or you as a corporation, are not revenue resilient anymore. And we work with a number of large organizations who are typically not R&D intensive right now to assess the extent of their revenue resilience. So that's like your awareness. To what extent is my corporation, and with it, all the families that I'm feeding, in danger? On the positive side, what we try to work out is how do organizations generate value in the future? So 2,000 years ago, we were like hunters and collectors. There was natural capital. Then it turned out it's a bit too exhausting, so you created organizations. And you had organizational capital. Henry Ford and friends started to automate business processes. We created economic capital, and we converted money into physical assets. But when people realized not everybody wants to have a black tea model, we had to create a symbolic capital. Organizations like BMW will charge another $10,000 just for the bread. The world became more complex, and we created human capital. And we needed individuals, and we paid them to explain complexity. And so after natural, organizational, economic, symbolic, and human capital, we arrived at the age of social capital. Again, if I take LinkedIn as an example, LinkedIn first creates a community and then try to work out how do I make business with them. And very soon we'll compete with Seek.com. TripAdvisor first created a community of travelers and then competes with Expedia. So when I'm a large bank, I might say, I can hand over a mortgage, or I'm closer to the homeowners in Brisbane. What we try to switch in the thinking of our students is, how do I go from kind of reacting to what I see and make a certain process faster to exploring new types of social capital? The social capital of QUT is 46,000 digital minds. What sort of problems could they solve? And what other opportunities do we have to harvest this social capital? This all happens under the umbrella of one of the chairs that Danielle mentioned, the chair in digital economy. So also welcome here in the audience Paul Russell, who has been highly influential in that space. So in this chair, we try to create that sort of expertise, the research that ultimately informs our curriculum, where, for example, we develop a digital mindset. A digital mindset means that I think about 2015, quite decoupled from technologies. When customers want to bring their own data, not just their own device, and how do I capitalize on this? What sort of business models does this unlock? When I look at communities and I try to work out, in a world where all I need is an app, a purely app-based, very, very light asset model is all that I need, how do I capitalize on communities? And in that world where social capital, in addition to the other forms of capital, becomes crucial, how do I convert this into new micro or macro revenue streams for myself or my organization? So the digital mind is something like the share of digital attention. The share of digital attention as a precursor to revenue, as a metric that could be utilized to understand how revenue resilient you are. We work with large asset-intensive organizations, let alone Australia Post, for example, on how do I convert a large asset base and how do I identify underutilized potential into new value propositions. So you can see this is, in addition to all the amazing technologies we've seen today, the opportunity to change thinking patterns and to see new design opportunities so that we are less reactive. Here's a problem, let's streamline and become the next Kodak, but be highly proactive and be driven by personal or corporate revenue resilience. And in that space, we try to create the new innovation professionals within organizations and within every single student that we right now have with us. Thank you so much.